Hey, it's Andrew Huang, and in the studio today, we're doing an experiment I've been wanting to try for a long time, which is taking a voice changer plugin and running audio through it that you're not supposed to. If you're not aware, there are these plugins now that are AI trained on singers' voices, and they can really accurately take a vocal recording and just change out the voice for someone else's. Like, they get the words, the notes, the expression. This is an example.
This is an example.
This is an example.
Now, before we start, I gotta caveat the heck out of this. Firstly, this video is sponsored by Orabus, who make voice. I use it as a plugin, but it's also available in browser, and it is my personal favorite voice changer. And I'm not just saying that, I actually approached them about this video concept, and I've turned down other voice swap plugin sponsorship offers. Like, they've been coming in for a couple of years, and I haven't felt that any of them are the right one. But Orabus Voice has great audio quality, a wide range of voices, and you don't need permission or licenses to use what you generate with it, and you can even copyright what you generate with it, and it allows you to create custom voices that are private for your own use. The second thing is ethics. Obviously a very important question when it comes to AI training, and Orabus is a company made by musicians. They get permission from every singer who they train on, and they compensate them. They're taking it seriously, and I think they're doing it right. So with that out of the way, let's begin. So as a little warm up, let me show you a couple use cases for voice changing that I don't see talked about as much, because kind of the primary thing is just switching out a main vocal. You know, you don't like the sound of your voice, or you're demoing something for a particular singer, and you get to have something that sounds more like the kind of performance or performer that you want rather than your own voice, let's say. But there are some other fun things you can do. One of them is background vocals. If you're singing everything yourself in your song, sometimes you might want that, but sometimes maybe you want a real spread of different kinds of voices. So I've got an example here where I don't know how many times I layered myself. And we could compare how this sounds if we want to swap some or all of these voices out for a bunch of different voices. So with voice, you can open any file, but you can also just drag and drop right in your DAW. And now with that file selected, I go to Browse, and I can preview what it sounds like with all of these different singers. As you can hear, they're even maintaining my not perfect intonation, which is fine. You're supposed to feed raw vocals to this rather than processed ones, and then you would treat these like a raw vocal take and do your processing after you've converted them. But I've got so many takes here, and just for this example, I'm gonna pick a different singer for every single layer, and we'll see what it sounds like as a choir of different people. And by the way, each of these singers gets a royalty for each use of their voice, and this is handled by Orabus and does not change the price you pay as a user. So now I can drag these converted vocal files back into my project. And the original. Depending on your song and your situation, you might want one or the other, but a plugin like this gives you that option if you're not in a position to get 13 singers to do something on a track for you. The next use case of just voice I want to show you is layering in one of these voice swaps with your original vocal just to give it a slightly different character, a little more polish, some added harmonics. So take a listen to this. So I've got my lead vocal. And I'm doubling that. Never let it feel it rain like the one. But I've also got Sergio from Orabus Voice. Never let it feel it rain like the one. So that's turned down a lot beneath my main vocals, and they're both being bussed to the same effects, EQ tuning, and then top line vocal sweep for a bit of polish. So here's just my vocal. When you got electric touch like you do. And here it is with Sergio, 9.4 dB below me. When you got electric touch like you do. It's just got a little more presence, but it still sounds like me. All right, let's move on to some of the weird examples, but we're gonna stick with voice. I feel like I just wanna progress this, but there are some weird things that are still vocal based. What about beatboxing? Put this into Orabus. Let's preview it. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I was hoping for. Some like interesting artifacts. I mean, first of all, just based on the consonants that the model's trained on, he's getting like some beatboxing, but then there's also that kind of like whistly tone that came in. That was cool. Kind of like a monstery tone to some of that. Let's also try this beatbox that has a water drop sound in it. More of a whistly one. We're getting some interesting textures, and I feel like doing some fun, you know, monster alien stuff would be possible by feeding non-traditional singing or vocalizing into a plugin like this. All right, now I want to see what happens if we put an affected vocal through Aura Bus Voice. So I'm going to add reverb and delay on this and see what the vocal model does when there's like echoes and lingering ambiances. Yeah, that's so messy. Let's see what it does with it. Drag this in. This is a little longer than the preview length, so I'm gonna do a conversion this time. Oh, and by the way, I'll mention this is one of the things I love about Aura Bus is that you get to preview without having to convert. A lot of voice swap plugins don't offer that, so it just speeds up the workflow a ton. Let's go with our old fave, Sergio. All right, let's drag our converted file in here.
Up and down,
A lot of glitching out because of the delay. All right, now let's play with time. I'm gonna take a vocal and I'm gonna speed it up, and I'm also going to time stretch it. So we'll use this vocal. Pull me down to the pavement. I will speed it up. Pull me down to the pavement. We'll speed it up by pitch shifting.
Pull me down to the pavement.
And then we'll also time stretch the other way.
To the pavement.
We should also do this by changing pitch, because again, how normal will their voice sound when you feed it something that's like this? Let's convert. What do we have here?
Pull me down to theta. Turn it down to the power. Pull me down to the pavement. Pull me down, sheet.
Okay, there are actually fewer artifacts because it is smoothing over the sort of time stretch stuff that's happening in Ableton, because of course it's trained to give you what sounds like a real voice, not a time stretch voice. I do think though I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this for the types of songs where you just want your vocals to be like glitchy or otherworldly or weird, even just for a moment. You're just using this as another kind of effect really, so it's another tool in the box. And also we can now stretch this one. Yeah, actually it's kind of a way to get an additional amount of pitch change while having less artifacts, because you can let the conversion sing something in a real voice at a different octave, and then pitch shifting that, you can go further before you run into the same kind of artifacts that you normally would. One creative idea that I think would be cool is having multiple voice conversions that you blend between, so your vocal tone is completely shifting. Could be pretty interesting. Here's a song we're gonna use for this. I do have effects on this vocal, but I'm going to be dragging the vocal recording into Aura Bus, so we can hear it raw if we want, or we can put it through the same effects to see how it sits in the song. Selecting 8 different voices, going to convert to all of them.
You can stay, you can go, I waited.
Not the most pronounced effect, but what if we mixed in octave up and octave down from different singers? Let's see what happens.
You can stay, you can go, I waited.
You could finesse that for kind of an effect. Like, what if you went really quickly in and out between two like that? Wait, hold on. Yo! It's like an octave and voice character tremolo. This actually makes more sense to do this effect this way, because instead of like just randomly morphing between a bunch of different things, you find 2 contrasts that are fun to blend between. But also, yeah, just being able to put this on a crossfade knob rather than doing it through editing, getting performative with it. Oh man, that would be really cool to try. Mapped a crossfader between these 2 tracks, and one of them is inverted, so as I turn one up, the other turns down.
Headed straight on the road that I'm taking.
This kind of brings me to my next idea, which is to just make a super voice. If you stack different voice conversions of the exact same audio it's going to be different than, you know, doubling yourself or having different singers double something, because we're talking about identical performances on very different voices. So if we play all these together,
Headed straight on the road that I'm taking.
that's 8 layers. We could switch some of them to different octaves.
Headed straight on the road that I'm taking.
So yeah, this could be interesting. I mean, you'd want to spend some time blending them to a way that makes sense because, you know, they're very different voices, but I think that's another interesting use case. And so here's where things may get more interesting. I have no idea what to expect. We're going to start feeding some instruments into the plugin and see what we get. That run was so cool, but also there's other fun little sounds happening too. Gets kind of percussive sometimes. I'm really excited about this next one. Drums. I'm gonna use my favorite little drumming moment from my song Cloud Collapse. Whoa. It kind of sounds like beatboxing for the snares, which makes sense. They're trying to reproduce this beat with just the mouth sounds and voice sounds that they've trained with. It almost feels like at a very low level, some of the kick drum is even coming through out of what sounds to me like their clothes may be shuffling as they were recording the training material. Or maybe that's mouth sounds. Maybe that's just... The drum fill is obviously kind of funny. And then the crash cymbal. All right, taking things a step further, I'm gonna feed it some stuff from my modular synth. I've consolidated a 30-second chunk of just selections of all different kinds of patches I've recorded in the last while. Let's put it in. That's not what I was expecting. I do love that initial sound. Very gentle, hesitant scatting. All right, now let's try some non-musical sounds. I mean, the bubbles are obviously kind of funny, but for the rest, it's some interesting, like, unexpected sound design stuff. Whoa, it interpreted the tractor really whistly. All right, for our final experiment, what if we put a full song through Oraba's voice? All collapsing with black holes and clouds. I'm broken down, burst wide open now. And now converting it. All collapsing with black holes and clouds. Broken down, that's wide open now. This is interesting because it's pretty good at just picking out the lead vocal when it is present. There is definitely a quality drop because, I mean, I'm hearing this fuzz kind of on top of everything because I've got, you know, all of that distorted guitar happening, I imagine is what's mainly contributing to that. I am loving what happens when there's no lead vocal because then it starts interpreting a lot more of the sounds, and when it's jumping between like doing a vocalization of the synth, but then the drums. This is the kind of stuff that's most interesting to me as far as misusing something like this for creative purposes. The guitar runs, you know, just getting these interesting clips of a voice-like thing happening, but kind of glitched out or mutated, choppy. I think this could be really fun for ear candy, but also like you could build a track around this. You can get a free month of Orabus Voice if you use the code in the description. Thanks again to them for sponsoring this video. This was a super fun day of experimentation, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.